Traveling to Greece in 2021? I'm gonna tell you all the things you need to know before you go. Hey friends, I'm Allie and welcome back to my channel where I help overpacking, luxury-loving, independent women travel deeper on their next adventure. I have just quite literally returned home from a 2-week trip throughout Greece with, of course, the one and only Linda. And let me just say, if I could snap my fingers and be back in Greece, I would. The magic of video editing. Just wish it worked that way. During my trip, you guys had quite a number of questions. I figured probably the easiest way to address all of those questions would be to sort of compile all your questions into a video, and here we are doing just that. Before we get into, all the different details, I feel like there are just a few really important things I want to make sure that you are aware of up front. First of all, it is July 2021 when I'm recording this video, and in the travel world these days, things change in honestly the blink of an eye. Therefore, it is super, 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 super important that you are going straight to the source for the most up-to-date information as it relates to entry and exit requirements for any country you're planning to visit, not just Greece. So you can either check with the State Department or even the official Greece tourism website, which honestly has been fantastic and is updated daily. I'm gonna put all of those links in the description of this video. Second, I am only sharing my personal experience, and even though specific requirements might change by the time you're watching this video, I want to be able to share my travel experience so that you feel as prepared as possible for your trip to Greece. Now that that's all out of the way, let's get into the nitty-gritty details. First, we've got to talk about what you need to actually get into Greece. If you are coming from the United States, like me, there are two very important things that you're gonna need. First, you're gonna need to fill out a passenger locator form, AKA a PLF, at least 48 hours before you arrive. Some places I see it says 24 hours, some places 48, so just at least 48 hours to be sure. Some notes on the PLF. Number one, you absolutely must fill this out in advance or you will quite literally not be allowed on your flight to Greece. I've heard some horror stories of people who have forgotten to do this and they weren't allowed to fly. So very, 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 very important that you do this. And honestly, it's super simple. You just go on the Visit Greece website. I'll put the link to the form below, and you just answer a few questions and then boom, you're in the system. Once you fill it out, you will be sent a confirmation email, which you need to print and take with you, and also save it in like an email folder or something. The reason this is important is because you're gonna be sent a QR code that you need to show upon arrival in Greece. The PLF is not valid without that QR code, but that code is only sent to you at midnight on the day of your arrival. So I know that's confusing, but if you're like Linda and I, and we had a flight at 1 p.m. on Tuesday, but we didn't arrive to Greece until 7 a.m. the next day on Wednesday, we got our code mid-flight, but you're gonna need to show that PLF confirmation email to the airline when you're checking in order to get on your flight. So that confirmation email will kind of fill the place of the QR code so that you can check in and get on the plane and then show the QR code once you land. Got it? Does that make sense? I know it can be confusing, which is why I'm making this video so that you're not like, oh my God, what do I do? Okay? The second thing that Americans will need to show will be one of three things. Either a certificate showing that you are fully vaccinated and 2 weeks after your final jab. This is what Linda and I showed, so we just both brought our vaccine cards and showed those when we were checking into the flight, and I believe also to customs when we arrived. Now, if you're not vaccinated, you can show a negative PCR test taken no more than 72 hours before your arrival, or a negative rapid test taken within 48 hours of arrival issued by an accredited lab. Now, your third option is to show a medical certificate showing that you've had COVID, and the certificate has to be issued 30 days after the positive test result and is valid for 6 months. I'm gonna drop the link to the list of the requirements once again in the description of this video, and I highly recommend taking some time to read it, make sure that you're all squared away, you know what you need, you know what options you're gonna go with, and then you are good to go. So once you land in Greece, you will get into sort of like a pre-customs line, and this is where they will be checking your PLF QR code. Now, here's my little plug for why it's really great to work with a travel advisor, AKA Linda, AKA Scorby Travel, because they have amazing boots on the ground partners, because as soon as we got down the escalator from the plane, there was this man who was just waiting there for us to zip us through the customs line. We literally cut everyone. Everyone was like, who are these people? Like, I basically call him sort of like our fast pass ticket. He took us through the initial line, took us to a different line for customs that we went straight up to the agent, and we were through in like 5-10 minutes. And listen, I get it. To some people, these might seem like unnecessary perks or things you don't think that you need, but I just have to say, there is nothing worse than standing in line forever waiting to clear customs after a long haul flight. It is the pits. So if you want to know more about working with my mom, Linda, who is a luxury travel advisor, I'm gonna leave a link on how you can work with her in the description of this video, so you can check it out if you're planning a trip to Greece or anywhere else in these Rona times. Okay. This was a lot, so I feel like we need to take a quick beauty shot break so you can see why it is worth it to jump through all of these hoops to go to Greece right now. Let's go. Hey, hi, I'm back. I know you could probably look at those beauty shots for forever, but gotta tell you more info. So here's my take on all these requirements. Greece is making it super easy for travelers to visit, as clearly evidenced by all of the ways you can enter the country, which honestly makes sense because Greece's economy very much relies on tourism. And in speaking with a lot of owners at many of the hotels, restaurants, and businesses that we visited while we were there, they were beyond eager to safely welcome back tourists. Number one question that I got asked was, what's the deal with the masks? Do you have to wear them? Okay, so you definitely do need to wear your masks indoors, which is kind of like a relearning experience for me and Linda, because in the US, rules have relaxed for vaccinated people, but that is not the case at the moment, again, in July in Greece. So when you're at your hotel, a shop, a museum, you absolutely will be expected to wear your mask in public common spaces indoors. But when you are outside, you are no longer required to wear a mask in uncrowded areas. So basically like walking down the street when you're not in crowds. One of the kind of exceptions to this rule was when we were at the Acropolis in Athens. We were asked to wear our mask because, you know, there's lots of people, and while you are outside, you could be in sort of kind of a grouping or a crowd. You will also have to wear your mask if you are traveling by a ferry at any point in time, you know, between islands, when you are getting on and off of the ferry, but you can feel free to take your mask off once you are sitting outside in some of those common areas on the ferry. Second most popular question, was it crowded? And I have to say, it kind of feels like everyone and their brother is visiting Greece right now. Celebs, my friends, vloggers, travelers, Europeans, everyone, like literally come one, come all. That's what Greece is saying. All that being said, I do truly feel like Greece is nowhere near as busy or as crowded as it typically could be. Now, Linda and I purposely avoided Santorini and Mykonos, two of the most popular islands, mainly because we've been there a bunch of times before, but also we had a feeling that if there was going to be a crowded place, probably those islands would be it, so that's why we picked to visit Paros and Naxos. When we were on Naxos, there were times where I was the only tourist at some of the major sites, and some of the beautiful side streets on Paros felt entirely empty. Now, when it came to getting reservations for dinner, we really didn't have any trouble, but again, I would highly recommend taking the time in advance to set up reservations if you do want to have a prime table right around sunset at the restaurant you really want to visit. Two of the hotels that we stayed at, one on Paros and the other on the Mani Peninsula, I did overhear the staff saying that they were fully booked until October, which is when many of the island destinations start to begin closing down for the season. So all of that being said, Greece is hot right now. And if you don't want to stress about availability at the places that you want to stay or the restaurants that you want to visit or the sites that you want to see, I would suggest thinking about a trip for 2022. Another question I got a lot of was, does it feel safe? And only speaking from my personal experience, I felt very comfortable while traveling through Greece. There were honestly many times where I kind of had to check myself because it almost felt a little bit too normal, if you know what I mean. Greece's vaccine rollout is progressing, and many of the people that we were interacting with that worked at the restaurants and the hotels and airports all told us that they were all fully vaccinated, which is fantastic. I also felt as if my fellow travelers were all very much respectful, and honestly, they're traveling for the same reason as me and Linda, which was basically to relax and celebrate the fact that we are able to travel the world again and do so safely. On that same note, everyone that I talked to was super eager to chit chat. We easily made friends from around the world on boat trips we took, at the hotels we stayed at, and even the people who we sat next to at restaurants. I feel as if travelers, or honestly humans in general, are so eager for new connections now that like everyone is talking to everyone and everyone is friends, and that was like a fun little thing that I noticed about traveling now that might be a little bit different than what I had experienced in the past. Was the airport busy? As for Athens, we wound up being at the airport a few times on this trip, and I found it to be kind of busy but not slammed. Like, lines were not terribly long and security wasn't bad either. All of that being said though, for both in America or in Athens, flying right now, you know, there can be tons of little things that could happen or go wrong, or wrong tests or wrong documents, or you forgot to print this, literally whatever. I would say it's always better safe than sorry, and if you can get to the airport just a little bit earlier than you typically would, I would say do it so that you alleviate a little bit of that stress. Very important question. How do you get home to the USA? So at the time of me recording this, again, July 2021, US residents still need to provide a negative COVID test taken no more than 3 days before you travel in order to be let back in. And that's regardless of whether you've been vaccinated or not. Typically, when I travel, my preference is to get the test taken at the hotel, just to keep it simple and easy. Many of the luxury hotels that we were staying at in Greece do offer this as an option, and I would typically go with this if you don't mind paying maybe 10 to 30 euros extra just for convenience, because it will be more expensive than going to a clinic. But with the timing of when we were going to be arriving at our various hotels and moving around, things didn't totally work out. So we wound up having to make an appointment at a local clinic. So that's something that the hotel that we were staying at and our partners on the ground helped us arrange. Again, another plug for why working with a travel advisor is amazing, because they take care of all of those details for you, arrange everything, so all you have to do is just show up. The specifics of the tests and turnaround time will kind of depend on the clinic that you're visiting, but for us, we made an appointment for 3:30 on a Friday and had our results delivered to us via email by 8 p.m. the following night on a Saturday. And then we flew out on Sunday. And essentially all you have to do is get the test, fill out a consent form at the clinic, and pay 60 euros for the test. Now, just a heads up, the price for a PCR test in Greece is capped at 60 euros. Now it is time for the loaded question. Is it worth it to go to Greece right now? And I have to say, if you can get to Greece now, go. Truly, I feel as if there will never, hopefully never, be a moment like this again where you'll be able to experience Greece with significantly less crowds. I think one of the worries about traveling right now is, will things be closed, or, can you fully experience the destination in the way that you had imagined it? And I have to say, as it relates to Greece, I don't feel like we missed out on a single thing. We got to visit the main sites, museums, eat at all the restaurants we wanted to eat at, stay at all of our top hotel choices, go out, mingle with other travelers. Again, the entire experience felt oddly normal and incredibly amazing. So I know we got a little into the weeds on details, but I hope that this video really answered some of your biggest questions about what it is like to travel to Greece in 2021. And just because I cannot say this enough, these are the requirements at the time of me recording this video, which is July 2021. So be sure to check the links in the description of this video just to double check the most current requirements. I am going to be rolling out more videos over the next few weeks on the best things to do in Athens, Paros, and Peloponnesos. And if you want to potentially visit those regions, see what it's like, make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you do not miss out on those videos. And if this video was helpful to you, go ahead and hit that thumbs up and drop any questions that you may have in the comments, and I will do my absolute best to answer them. And once again, if you're looking for a fabulous travel advisor to work with and plan your fabulous Greece vacay, check out Linda. I'm putting her website again in the description of this video.